Dr. Neha Kramer is a palliative neurologist at Rush University Medical Center, where she cares for people living with ALS and other serious neurological diseases. She's trained at Mayo Clinic in neurology, stroke, and hospice and palliative medicine. At Rush, she developed the Neuropalliative Clinic focused on improving quality of life for patients and families through symptom management and support. Outside of work, she enjoys yoga, meditating, and dance parties with her daughter. Her title today is Prescription for Hope, Living Fully with ALS. In this presentation, she will share how palliative care can help people living with ALS and their families find comfort, connection, and meaning. She'll share how palliative care can ease symptoms, support families, and help focus on what matters most. Dr. Kramer, thank you.
Thank you so much, Shimana, for inviting me to speak with you all today. I am humbled to be in front of you all and sharing my experiences with you of caring for patients with ALS for the last decade or so. What I share with you today really comes from what patients have taught me and what their caregivers have taught me. So I hope that you find it meaningful and helpful and it resonates. And if your experience is different, and that's okay too. I want to make sure that there is room for all of that. So today we'll talk about how to find joy through connection and gratitude, how to find meaning through expression and reflection, the role of humor on this journey, and how palliative care can help you live fully, and how to access palliative care. So we know that living well with ALS is possible. You all are examples of that. And even when the body changes, we know that the capacity for joy, meaning, humor, and purpose remains. And joy can come from connection, creativity, gratitude, and shared humanity. And meaning making on this journey is vital. One of my patients used to tell me, ALS can take away my movement, but it can't rob me of my spirit. So how do we find joy through connection and humanity? We know that relationships really help us sustain hope and identity. So it's really important to ask ourselves, who brings me strength? Who can understand this journey with me? What connections matter to me most? And how do I augment these relationships now? So look for opportunities to build those rituals with others. I have a patient that has a weekly phone call with family from all across the nation. Tuesday mornings, everybody gets on the call, and they share together. They have brunch together. They share stories of what's going on in the past week. And over time, even though his ability to speak has changed, he still enjoys listening and laughing and partaking, and the whole family benefits. So these connections are what keeps us connected to who we are and what matters most to us. Even simple rituals like putting on evening music, or sharing meals together, or storytelling together can make all the difference. It's important as part of connection to find your people. I imagine many of you are part of support groups and online communities that can help foster belonging and safe places. And it might be that you may find that I'm not sure if I like the whole group setting, but you might connect with someone in that group that you may meet with independently afterwards. And so finding your people can look in all shapes and forms. Finding joy through gratitude. So we know research shows that gratitude can help improve mood, create joy, strengthen our relationships, and really support the emotional resilience to help get us through this journey. Part of gratitude is focusing on those small moments, those everyday experiences, whether that's watching a sunset, noticing the leaves change the color this season, or perhaps sitting in the window and feeling the sunlight basking on your face, or perhaps putting on your favorite scent or in the room or on yourself, or the soft touch of a nice warm blanket or a soft blanket, or perhaps listening to the sound of rain. It's these simple moments that can help us connect with nature, but also just be in the moment itself. Gratitude is really about appreciating what is the gift of now. And this is what helps us do that. Other gratitude practices might be journaling, whether that's voice to text, caregiver assisted, or photo journaling can be adaptive strategies. Perhaps it means sharing what you are thankful for with loved ones, telling them, calling them, leaving a video, doing letters, in whatever way that you can. Reflect on what you did well today. It might be something really small, like perhaps you could laugh at something that you weren't able to laugh at before. Or maybe it was you were able to take more steps in physical therapy today than you had the last few days. Or maybe it was that you were able to tell the person that you love what you really appreciated about them today. And then guided meditations focusing on gratitude can also be a practice as well. Finding meaning through expression. So what I mean by expression is anything that's really in the arts and humanities, whether that's listening to music, creating music, dancing, even just moving, expressive movement, even from your chair or from the bed, painting, drawing, sketching, writing, poetry, journaling, recording stories, leaving legacy letters for the family. All of these are ideas of creative self-expression. And it helps reclaim your voice and your agency. What you are really doing is saying, this is what I want you to see about me and who I am and what I'm experiencing. It can be a way to reflect on the journey. It can be a way to leave a legacy. And this can be something for everyone. You don't have to consider yourself an artist to do this. It doesn't have to be just for the person living with ALS. It can be for the caregivers to really express their journey. And it's about the process, not necessarily the product. So lean into the fact. I have some patients that tell me, I don't know. I had one patient that was an art teacher before, and she came to me and said, I really miss being able to do art with my grandkids, doing art with my students in the classroom. And I said, well, what's keeping you from doing it now? And she said, I can't hold the paintbrush. I can't hold the scissors anymore. And I said, well, what if we just let go of that and we're okay that it looked a little different? And so she started to paint with her fingers and started to really explore a whole different medium. So lean into the fact that it may look different, may be modified. It may just depend on what you're able to do now. And anything really can be art. Anything is really a medium, even fashion today, what I learned. So this is an example of an artist named Ken Brenner, who was a self-taught artist with ALS. And all throughout his life, he kind of dabbled in art. And he collaborated with a friend, another artist named Octavio Molina. And together they used to create art in his house one Saturday for hours on end. They would create art together. And in this painting, by this time, he was not able to hold the paintbrush. So what he did was he drew dots with his hand, and his friend Octavio drew the rest and made the connections. And together they created this art piece together. And over time, it was a process of how they created and worked together changed over time. So it really showed the journey of change. And one thing he wrote about this was, he said, I'm not who I was yesterday, neither are you. I'm not a definitive action. I'm not comfortable being static. I'm a reminder that life is fluid. I'm a reminder that art is genderless. I'm a reminder that nothing is forever. I am comfortable being uncomfortable. I am comfortable with you. I am. And what he talked about was when we paint, meaning him and Octavio, he says, it takes the fear out of what I'm going through. And he really talked about how in the moment he forgot about that he had ALS. He forgot about the problems that consumed him, and he really was just in the moment. So this is art. If you're interested for inspiration, you can go to the Artistry of ALS 2025. It's on the I Am ALS website. And there's a virtual guided tour of works by patients living with ALS, and even some works from caregivers as well. So this might give an idea or inspiration for what is possible. We can also be guided by stories. Just as art can be medicine and healing for us, art can be a teacher. And stories can help teach us how to live with ALS or how others have lived with ALS and lessons we can learn from them. For those of us who don't have ALS, this can be a teacher for what our loved ones might be experiencing and how we can better empathize and relate. So the first book, Susan Spencer Wendell, Until I Say Goodbye, really talked about her journey and how she lived fully, doing many travels. She created a bucket list. She even went with her 14-year-old daughter to buy to a wedding boutique to just look at dresses with her daughter for the one day that her daughter would get married. So I'm dying to tell you is a patient with ALS, Lori Carey, who has a podcast talking about and having different guest speakers. And then Tuesdays with Maury is a very old book you might be familiar with about a professor and a student, a professor with ALS and a student that comes visits him weekly on Tuesdays and discuss about what it's like to live with this condition. There's lots of films and documentaries also. Not Going Quietly is about a husband and his wife who really advocate for different change with ALS. And there's also stories from caregiver perspectives as well that may help put a person to a story and really help you feel seen as you're not alone. So, I know that the ALS United has wonderful guides for caregivers and patients. This can help also put a story to the journey. There's also groups and communities online that can help. The ALS Association has a community for caregivers where they do storytelling and writing together. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about being a caregiver or ALS, but it can be. It can be a way to express. The ALS Association also has a creative pursuits program where they have book clubs and book clubs for caregivers, a visual arts club, a hands-free music resource club, digital arts, nature immersion guide. So there's many options for how to immerse in the arts through ALS. And then the ALS United has beautiful resources for kids and teens as well on books and different support groups as well that can help find community. So other ways to do this, you might find licensed art and music therapists in your community that you can reach out to that may give you ideas that you could collaborate if this was of interest. Oftentimes, local cancer support nonprofits are already doing this, so this might be a way to connect, or integrative medicine programs at academic medical centers may have specialists that are wanting to expand and work with different groups. And if it piques your interest, consider submitting your work to magazines and exhibitions and competitions. Synapse Magazine might be one you could try. And then through working with patients of ALS over the last several years, one of the things that they have taught me is how to reflect on what the disease has taught them and what the disease continues to teach them. And they find that reflecting on this can really be powerful to give them a little meaning and shift from why me to what is the lesson here and what am I learning and how am I growing. And so common themes I hear are patience and presence. They're learning how to cherish the moment, the small joys, the daily connections. I hear a lot about gratitude and perspective, focusing on what truly matters, relationships, laughter, the shared humanity. Discovering their inner courage in the face of challenges. Many of my patients are surprised at themselves when they really stop to reflect about how they've really found their courage through all this that they never knew they had. There's a lot of lessons here in humility and interdependence, accepting support, and valuing caregivers. I think that can be one of the hardest things sometimes. Finding new ways to communicate, finding ways to process emotion and leave a legacy. And then the ongoing learning. A lot of what my patients tell me is the only constant here is change. Every time I get used to something, it changes again. And so how do we kind of embrace the uncertainty and the evolving lessons that each day will bring us? So if it's helpful, sometimes reflecting on this and finding meaning through the journey may help. And then, of course, there's the role of humor. We know that humor isn't just a nice added extra. A lot of research shows us that it's a real coping tool that can help reduce stress, see our experience differently, and improve connection. And it helps us maintain identity and honors our whole person. It can help us reclaim a sense of agency, relieve some fears, relieve tension, and it can coexist with grief. Doesn't mean that grief isn't there. Just because grief is there doesn't mean there's not room for humor. So how do we do this? It might be sharing memories that make one another laugh. It might be self-enhancing humor, light teasing, shared jokes, seeing the positive side. But we know that self-defeating humor is not productive. So keep it light. And then finally, the role of palliative care. So I often explain to my patients and families that I'm an extra layer of support for you and your care team. And really our focus in our visits are about how do we improve your quality of life and how do we maintain dignity. So sometimes we focus on symptoms, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual. We oftentimes make plans for the future and ensure that your care aligns with your goals. So we really focus on how do we identify what matters most to you, what do you prefer, and what are some of those difficult decisions that might be ahead. And for palliative care is not only for patients or persons living with ALS, it's really also for the caregivers and families. So we spend as much time on each party, which I think is very important. And we know that it's not just for end-stage disease. It's really appropriate at any stage. Sometimes I see people when they are first diagnosed, when there's a lot of questions that come up. And we work alongside Neurology and the many other care teams many other people that you have on your care team. So it's a close collaboration. So these are some of the symptoms that we help manage: shortness of breath, secretions, fatigue, sleep disturbances, pain, muscle cramps, stiffness, moods, communication challenges, and some of the stress that is associated with decision making. My hope is that when you leave a visit with me, you feel more informed to be able to make decisions that most align with what you want, and you feel hopeful that you have some agency in all of this. We talk a lot in our visits about what is it like to live with the uncertainty that might be up ahead, and how do we preserve your identity in relationships, and how do we support your loved one that is taking care of you. When we talk about what matters most, I ask, what brings you joy and meaning right now, and how can we nurture that? What helps you feel connected? Who supports you? And then we talk about the worries. What worries you most, and who can help carry that with you? And how do we address some of those worries? And then I also have my patients really, just as Dr. Bedlock said, what gives you hope? I often talk about, what are you hoping for? What's your goal? And together we identify goals, we modify them as they might change over time. We talk about realistic feedback of how likely is that goal, and what can we accomplish with it? What are other goals you want to consider? And then we prioritize. Well, out of all of these goals, what matters most? And what are the different pathways to achieve those? So I want to, the key message is living with ALS is possible, and joy, humor, connection, meaning all remain. Meaning making is really vital along this journey, and palliative care can help you along the way. Thank you.